Hi guys, welcome to Visordown. My name is Alex and welcome to Sardinia. As you can see in front of me, it's the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. And what I've got to say to this bike is it's absolutely outstanding. But roll VT, we'll get into it. So, brilliant bike, I've got to say, just straight off the bat. This V-Strom was first seen at EICMA 2022 and I was on the Suzuki stand filming away when they unwrapped the bike itself or pulled the covers off, and I saw it and I thought, oh, it's a V-Strom. Okay, cool. You know, realistically, and Suzuki might not like saying this, but it's just another V-Strom, but it's not. This one's got a parallel twin, and I've got to say, it's astounding what this thing can do. I'll go straight into the engine just to talk about it for real quick and then tell you all about Sardinia and what we've been up to. So the motor itself is a 776cc. It's got 84 brake horsepower and 78 Newton meters of torque. And this bike itself has a 270-degree crank with some Suzuki balance rods and everything going on in there to keep it nice and smooth. But it's got so much character that on the road and on the trails that we've been riding on over the last 2 days, I've been really impressed by this bike. So much so that I thought, if it wasn't called a V-Strom, if it was like a DR800, if it was a resurrection like the Honda Transalp, people might take a little bit more notice. And as you'll find out towards the end of this little 10-minute or so segment, this bike could be something that is really well worth considering if you're a tour rider, if you're looking to do a bit of off-road, or just a general bike, because again, this thing performs so well. Now, what we've been up to here in Sardinia is the launch over 2 days. So we've had a sort of mix of both on-road and off-road. Day one was a load of on-road bits where the bike really stood out as a really, really nice tourer. Handles beautifully in the corners, the engine's super torquey from low down, regardless of what gear you're in, it feels. And then when you take it off-road, it sort of turns into a different bike. You've got a 21-inch front tyre, a 17-inch rear, and you'd think to yourself, well, that doesn't really make any sense, because if it's got a really big tyre, how is it going to be handling so well in both climates? But it does, and it was really, really, really nice. Sticking with the tyres, it's the Dunlop Trail Max Mixed Tour, and realistically, they're more of a road-based tyre. So you can probably see, or we'll cut in a few clips where the sort of pattern is nice, it looks cool. And on gravel and sort of loose surfaces, it does okay. But if you were to really look at this bike as an off-road bike, you're going to be looking at taking these tyres and swapping something a little bit more substantial. But don't get me wrong, it absolutely coped well in these Sardinian roads that we've been riding on, as well as the sort of dusty and sandy segments. On road, absolutely fine. You wouldn't even think that this is a off-road-ish tyre because it just was great, really grippy, chuck this into corners and really start leaning into them. And it was really, really superb. What I will say as well, because I'll talk about off-road, I'm not the best off-road rider in the world, by no stretch of the imagination. But this bike really helped out. And you've got a lot of rider modes, you've got a lot of electronic assists that you can work through here. And jumping into the TFT, working a little bit back, you've got traction control that you can turn to gravel mode. You've got modes 1, 2, and 3, or you can just turn it completely off. Gravel is a little bit less intrusive than mode 1, and mode 3 is going to be the most intrusive, so sort of like a rain mode. Switching over to the drive management system, or Suzuki drive management system, you've got A, B, and C. A is more of an open throttle response, so you twist it and it really starts to engage you and just liven up a bit. B is like sort of everyday riding, town, cities, cruising, and C is like a wet mode. I've tried all three of them. I was mostly riding in B off-road because it didn't give that real, just unnecessary for me response, but it was nice and controlled. Going up any gradients, it was really, really superb. Then you've got ABS and you can switch it from 1 and 2, so of course how much intrusiveness you want in the ABS, or you can just switch it off on the rear wheel if you're going off-road, which is superb. Got another group coming in now, beeping away. Happy days, it's all good. Sort of sticking at the front here, you've got a screen as standard, which is okay. This one now is in a raised position and it's 30mm higher than the lower position, but you can't adjust it on the fly. You have to take out 4 Allen keys and adjust it. It's comme ci, comme ça, shall we say. At its lowest setting, you really have to get your chin to the bike to actually get any wind over your head. Otherwise, it just feels like you're riding a naked bike. But you can also go into the accessories catalog and get a tool screen. Sticking with the TFT real quick as well. They've bonded the TFT straight to the glass, so there's no air bubble in between and there's no glare at all. It's got a night and day mode, and it's really simple and easy to navigate with the mode buttons. If you are riding along and you suddenly see a trail, you close the throttle and you can turn on the gravel mode, you can turn off the ABS as long as the throttle's closed. It's really easy to navigate. Moving a little bit back, you've got the 20-litre tank, and you might think, well, hang on, that's quite a big tank for a bike this size. And it is actually, as far as I know, the petrol tank is actually the biggest out of all the competitors. So the Transalp, you've got the Tenere 700, you've got the Touareg 660, and countless other examples, including the KTMs of the world. And the way they've done this is by moving the air filter from underneath the tank to underneath the seat, which is really impressive. You've also got the throttle bodies there and stuff like that. And that allows them to expand the tank size and give you a little bit more range. They quoted 450 kilometers as range. Not quite sure exactly what that is in miles, but I wouldn't really be able to tell you if that's accurate or not, purely because every time we stop, they put more fuel in the bike, so who knows. I'll go down to the motor again real quick just to emphasize the fact that this thing is so torquey. On the roads, performs brilliantly. It's really nice and really easy to use. But then of course, the ride-by-wire on there, you'd think, oh, has it got cruise control? No, it doesn't. There's no option for cruise control either, so a bit of a shame that it's not there, but it is what it is. One thing I will add is the bike itself weighs 230 kilograms wet. A lot of that is to do with the fact that the tank size is so big, and 230 kilograms is quite weighty, but when you're riding on the road, you don't feel it at all. And I've got to say, you don't feel that weight at all. I'm quite a taller rider, so when I'm on and off the bike and getting it off the side stand, there is no center stand, unless you want to get it on the accessories. Anyway, when I'm putting it off the side stand, my lanky legs can stop the bike from falling over, but someone of Toad's height, he might have to jump from one side to the other to sort of stabilize himself. So just watch out on that. But if you're a seasoned rider, that's going to be no problem whatsoever. In terms of suspension, you've got shower at the front, shower at the rear, you've got a preload adjustable twisty bit, and you can adjust all of the sort of rebound, compression, dampening, all of this. You can adjust it all entirely to your heart's content. For me, as it was set up, I've adjusted the preload a tiny little bit, but it was basically perfect as soon as I set off. Whether that was on-road or off-road, it felt really sort of soft and compliant. Sometimes the bike itself would struggle a little bit off-road. You know, if you hit a bit of gravel with the tiny, skinny front wheel, you might send it a little bit, the suspension might really start working, but it never really threw you off. It never really got too much. And again, for me as an inexperienced off-road rider, I got on fine with it. Oh, I will just add as well, the brakes are really responsive. I really enjoy using these brakes. Sometimes when you're coming up some of these twisty, turny Sardinian roads and you think, oh, that's coming a bit tight. Really responsive bite on these brakes, pull them in and you're away, really nice. Oh, and also naturally, standing up on the bike, again, I'm quite a tall rider. I did get the Suzuki engineers to just sort of twist the bars up a little bit so it was less of a reach down, and that was really nice. Of course, you can do that yourself with just loosening the bar and twisting it up, nice and easy. But again, off-road, superb. So really, the last thing to really add on this is the accessories. Of course, you're gonna wanna know all about it. The seat itself is 855mm as standard. You can get a higher seat or a lower seat if you wanted to. For me, it was superbly comfortable as standard. I didn't go on the pillion, but touching it now, it's nice and soft. You can happily have your partner or whoever you want on the back and they'd be pretty comfortable. You've got grab rails here as well. And in terms of pillion pegs, I did put my leg up on them and it doesn't seem too high. It seems quite comfortable. If you've got top box panniers as the accessories as well, they've got something to lean on. And I think it would be a very nice tourer. But in any case, the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE, I've been thoroughly impressed with this bike. Incredibly comfortable to ride on the road, very responsive. The engine is really good fun to work with. And even though it's a parallel twin and not a V-twin as the V-Stroms used to be, it was great fun to work with. And just a quick thing to add on that, I asked one of the Suzuki guys, so if it's a V-Strom, what does a V stand for if it's not V-twin? And they said, oh, well, it's never stood for V-twin, it's always stood for versatile. Whether you want to believe them or not on that, it's up to you. I will have to say though, I agree with them. This is a very versatile bike. But jumping on this for the first time in Sardinia on these beautiful roads and the beautiful countryside, outstanding views, this bike has been incredibly good fun to ride. Jumping on it for the first time, it just felt like I'd been riding it for years before. Sometimes you jump on a bike and you need to get used to it a little bit, but just literally pulling away the first time, this thing was familiar to me. If you do want to go off-road, you might want to change the knobblies, but I'd say this thing is a very good purchase decision and it only costs £10,499, which I forgot to say right at the start. So in a real quick summary, I'd say give this one a go. It's going to be coming out fairly soon, I believe. Don't know the exact date, and we can chuck it on screen if it's not going to be very soon. But I believe that it's going to be from around April, May. Blur that out if that's not correct. If you want to find out more about the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE, go to Visordown.com and I'll have the full written review, loads of pictures for you to enjoy. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. Leave a comment down below if you'll consider this as a parallel twin V-Strom, or if you're going to be looking at the Teneres, which I think compare quite nicely, or even the Trans Alp that you're going to be riding in the next few weeks. So keep your eyes peeled and Visordown for that. But in any case, thanks so much for watching. Ciao, arrivederci, and I'll see you on the next one.